Hello, all. My name is Michael Conway. Um, for my topic that I was looking at for this live binder, I decided to focus on testing bias. This is something that I've noticed with my students, especially with regards to, for example, the EOCs that the students are required to do for high school. It's also something that I want to be researching and looking at as I continue my education, hopefully for a doctorate. And so it was really interesting. And as a general topic, something that interests me is the topic of testing bias. And as I was doing the research, looking at the different studies that I did, some of the things that was popping up. The first was with the topic of anxiety, um, testing anxiety that students have, and how this affects them as they take tests, especially if tests are standardized testings or are already somewhat biased against them. I know for me with my students, a big deal for them. Some of them would do phenomenal in the classroom. They could answer the question, but whenever they saw it on the test, they completely went blank. And I asked one student in particular really stood out to me that they I asked them, I said, "What happened? You answered this question right whenever we were reviewing, almost word for word the way that it could have possibly been on the test." And they said, listen, whenever I sit down and do a test, my mind just goes blank. So the idea of how to improve anxiety, not just looking at it for theory, and with all of the testing biases, not just looking at the theory behind it, but how to improve it, how to help overcome the biases. And one of the areas is with regards to anxiety. A second very interesting and very important part of testing bias has to do with gender bias as well. Um, one of the studies was researching how teachers grade and evaluate, give feedback to students with regards to their gender and how it can be very different depending on if it is a subject where females are supposed to be better at, subject where males are supposed to be at. Just the gender bias that goes into testing bias as well, and how that needs to be addressed, and how we can overcome that as much as possible, um, to provide an equal level of teaching for our students. Finally, and this was a study that was done in Australia, but it looked at how testing is affected by what they labeled as school belonging, which was the level of connection and belonging that students have with their school, and their school community. And it looked at um, recent immigrants, first and second generation immigrants to Australia, and it found that those who were least connected to a sense of community with the school, of school belonging, also faced a lot of difficulties with regards to testing. Those who felt most connected to the school, most connected to the community, as an average, percentage wise, did better on the test. So I think part of a part of looking at testing anxiety, testing bias, also has to do with looking how we can make the students feel connected to the school, to their community, and therefore give them more opportunities for success. So testing bias is something that's really interesting to me. Not just the theory behind it, but how can I help my students overcome it in order to do the best that they can with it. Of course, we want to lessen it as a whole, as a general rule, but also for them individually, how to understand it, how to confront it, and how they can overcome it the best. So it's an interesting topic, and I'm looking forward to researching it more in the future.